Welcome to Beyond Prostate Cancer. Powered by the Reluctant Brotherhood, this show is built on one belief, that no man should face prostate cancer alone. Here, we redefine strength. Strength is showing up, speaking honestly, and standing shoulder to shoulder with other men who understand the fight. Every 2 weeks, we share real conversations about life beyond the diagnosis. Welcome to Beyond Prostate Cancer. I'm Casey. This is a place where men come to have real conversations about life before, during, and after prostate cancer. This episode is brought to you by the Reluctant Brotherhood, a community where men speak openly, support one another, and reminding each other that no one has to go through this alone. Today, I'm joined by Jann. Jann is a pharmacologist and a prostate cancer survivor. But what makes his story unique is that he brings both personal experience and professional insight. Jann, welcome to the show. We're so glad to have you.
Thank you very much. I'm very glad to be here.
Great to have you. So before we get into the questions about the prostate cancer itself, we generally like to know a little bit about the guest. And so in this case, since I do not know exactly where you're from, just if you wouldn't mind, would you mind sharing where you're from and what's something special about that place that you're from that kind of shaped who you are?
Well, thank you. I spend most of my time in the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania area, where I worked and subsequently retired. And one thing I really like about the area is the good medical care that we have in the area, with all the good hospitals and professionals that can help you with whatever you have going on. So I'm pleased to spend most of my year in the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania area.
Okay, I appreciate that. I'm a little familiar with the Philadelphia area. I spent a little time down there. Mm-hmm. So before any of your prostate cancer journey began, how would you describe the season of life you were in?
I was a healthy, happy guy with a loving spouse and family, enjoying life, doing what I wanted to do. Recently retired and getting my things in that I wanted to do every day. And then along came my annual physical exam and the discovery of the prostate cancer.
So you were like most of us, or like many of us, right? We just a normal guy living life,
right?
Until you got a knock on your door, so to speak, that something had changed. Okay, so when were you initially diagnosed, Jann?
It was almost 6 years ago. And as I say, it was during a normal physical exam. The PSA levels were high, and we went from there, and the path began.
So, okay, so how quickly did things move from diagnosis toward surgery?
Fairly quickly. As I say, I'm very pleased with the medical care that I have in the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania area. Mm-hmm. And upon seeing that the PSA was high, we retested that to confirm that that was an accurate measurement. From there, we went on to further examinations, including a biopsy, and that confirmed the diagnosis of prostate cancer. Then I talked to several urologists, radiation specialists, surgery specialists, right, to see what the best path forward was.
Right. And so that's ultimately some of the things that helped you make the decision. Do you remember what it felt like when you finally made the decision? Was it nervousness? Was it anxiety? Were you scared?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I interact with a lot of people with prostate cancer that do have all of the things you just mentioned. But for me, being a scientist, as you mentioned, a pharmacologist, I spent my life in research and development. And so I go at life from a scientific standpoint. Mm-hmm. And from the first elevated PSA measurement onwards, I was constantly analyzing it as a scientist. So I did not particularly feel the anxiety or depression or scaredness or anything like that, but I was seeing it as a problem, as I see problems throughout my life, be they scientific, be they personal, be they whatever. I saw it as a problem that needed some research, needed some discussion with people, needed some reading about the situation, and then I could, with the consultation of my wife and others, come to a good path forward.
Wow. Yeah. So you kind of answered my next question for you, but that's great that you have that scientific background, because so many men have no idea what prostate cancer means. So many men sadly don't understand what the function of the prostate is. So your scientific background, I'm sure, helped calm you in ways that many men likely wish they could be calmed, because we know that it's a scary time. So were there any points during the journey for you prior to surgery where you felt like you had too much knowledge?
Not really. There was a lot of knowledge. I tried to find the balance between reading too much, talking to too many people, consulting with too many
Right.
medical professionals, and talking to enough of them. So I was looking for me anyway, that bright spot where I could get as much information as I wanted without being overwhelmed or spending inordinate amounts of time. During this analysis in these first months, and in fact in the last 6 years, I've continued to pay attention to my prostate cancer and my situation, but I've not let it dominate my life, certainly
Right.
not totally. I've gone on to do other things and continue to live a very rich and fulfilling life.
That's exactly what I like to hear. We're going to touch more on that. And the reason I asked that question is because I've talked to people in the medical profession, medical students, and sometimes I'll hear them say, being in medical school, you obtain so much knowledge that you begin to scare yourself, right? I know personally that if I allow myself to go down the Google runway, so to speak, I will begin to sometimes catastrophize. And so I've had to train myself that when things happen, or if I have a concern, not to panic, not to Google, just make the appointment with my doctor and ask the questions, because I don't have the scientific background. And some people, what they'll do is they'll Google and they'll think, and I've done it, that you think you know more than the doctors, and we really don't. So it's a very dangerous game we play with ourselves, So
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, another thing that's really helped me a lot along those lines is I'm a big believer in meditation. I meditate with a lot of different groups. I actually lead groups that meditate. I lead a group in the Reluctant Brotherhood that meditates. That has helped me a lot in finding the balance, finding the calm, while paying attention to the cancer and making sure that I'm handling it as well as I can. At the same time, trying to be as calm and collected as I can about it.
Right. I know. Yeah. Thank you for talking about that, because, when we call this show Beyond Prostate Cancer, obviously we know what we're discussing, but we also like to talk about things other than prostate cancer. So for a topic such as meditation, that's something that a lot of people, and I'm guilty of this too. I've tried meditation many times. I've been in the group. I have not mastered it by any means. And so I know there's probably some techniques that you can help me get better with it. So we'll talk about that a little bit more after the break, perhaps. But yeah, I'm so glad that you're doing that, because this is something that really can unsettle people, and it's helpful that you're able to calm people down and kind of guide men through this process. If you don't mind talking about the surgery itself. So you obviously understood what you were getting yourself into, but was there anything about the surgery or the process before, during, or after the procedure that kind of caught you off guard, or was it pretty much what you expected?
It was pretty much as I expected. Again, I have a lot of confidence in the medical professionals that I have been dealing with, and so I think the surgery, the recovery, was pretty much what I expected. But it was important to get good input from a couple different sources. I'm also a big believer in getting second opinions, and I've gotten that not only with surgery, but later on, as we'll undoubtedly get to, I had recurrence of the cancer, and radiation was involved in my subsequent recent reoccurrence. And it was good to get good professional information from those people at that time too.
So that's interesting. So, okay, if you don't mind, can we talk about that for a second? Would you mind
Sure. No,
addressing
not
that a
at
little
all.
bit? Because, right, a lot of men have surgery and that's it. But in your case, you had a recurrence. So your initial diagnosis was about 6 years ago,
Yes.
and then you had surgery. And so how recent was the recurrence?
The recurrence was about a year and a half ago. So after the surgery, for about 4 years, there seemed to be little, if any, cancer. My PSA levels were undetectable and all was well. But then they started creeping up, the PSA levels, that is. And
Right,
talked to more professionals about it. And I got a good PSMA body scan to
right,
find where the cancer had metastasized to.
right,
And we zeroed in on, I talked to a couple of radiation people, had 33 treatments of external beam radiation about a year and a half ago. And that
right.
seems to have knocked it back down to where now my PSA is undetectable again.
Undetectable again. That's great. That's great. How was the those treatments? Did they wear you out? How did you feel generally going through that?
Yeah, I felt pretty good. A lot of people talk about the lethargy that they
Right.
experience, some depression and other factors that creep in. I've been blessed by not suffering from the lethargy or the incontinence, for example, that a lot of people talk
Mhm.
about. Um, I have had my challenges with erectile dysfunction, but I knew that going in was a possibility. Talked to my wife of 54 years, and we had good discussions about that,
Wow.
and that's still a challenge. But other challenges that I hear from a lot of men in terms of lethargy, incontinence, and things, I've not suffered from any of that at all.
Wow, that's interesting. That's one of the main things that we talk about. I personally have dealt with the incontinence. I still deal with some incontinence. So when I hear someone say that they haven't, it's a very, very individual specific thing, right? I know a
Right.
gentleman, he had surgery about 2 weeks ago, and I asked him, so how are you doing with the incontinence? He said, I don't have any incontinence. So it's a very, very individual thing.
Yeah.
Now, I heard you say something a moment ago. Did I hear you say that you and your wife have been married 54 years?
Yes.
Wow. Now, that's a blessing because not many people can say that. So
Yeah.
she has been with you. She's what we call a ride or die, right? She's with you
Yeah.
forever. God bless her.
Yes, I agree. We need to be taking in our significant others and our friends into account as we go through this journey because it affects them in certain ways, small and large. And I've tried to think of that as I've gone along too. What does this mean for my wife, for my kids, my grandkids? Just friends. I've tried to think how what I'm doing, what I'm experiencing, how it affects them, and what I can do to make their experience as positive as possible.
Yeah. How many kids did you say you have, Jen?
I have two children and five grandchildren.
Okay. And so how many male, if you don't mind?
I have a son and a daughter,
Okay.
and
Okay.
one grandson. So,
Okay.
especially with my son, I've made him well aware of my journey and
That's
the
exactly what I was.
genetic
Mhm.
component to it. The grandson is just 16, so he's not quite there to, I think, fully appreciate what
Right.
the
Right.
future may hold for him. But as time passes, his father and I will make sure he understands what my journey has been.
Thank you thank you so much for that because we're going to touch on that very topic in a minute. But that's why I asked that. Well, I wasn't trying to get too personal. I just wanted to know because when we have men who have nephews, grandsons, I love it when I hear them say we're making them aware of the family history. And you being a scientist, wow, what a great resource for them to have.
Yeah, yeah.
Before we take a break, if we could just shift gears a tiny bit for a moment. So outside of everything that we've talked about so far, what does life look like for you now? And what are some of the things that bring you joy these days?
Well, lots of things bring me joy. The kids and grandkids that I've just mentioned, my wife, and things that we do. I try to volunteer a lot in different organizations. Habitat for Humanity is one of my favorites. I volunteer weekly for hospice, my local hospice organization. I enjoy walking and hiking in the woods and enjoy nature. And as I say, I belong to 6 different meditation groups, so I'm doing a lot of meditating during the week. I belong to 3 different book clubs. So I'm doing a lot of reading too of various sorts, nonfiction and fiction and spiritual type things and other topics. So I live a full life, a very active life, and I'm very appreciative of that.
That's awesome. I really love to hear that. You know, life does not stop because of prostate cancer.
That's right.
Thankfully. This has been powerful so far. I really appreciate that. So if you don't mind, let's take a moment to thank our sponsors. And when we come back, we may go a little deeper into what you've learned through all of this. So let's just take a quick break. Okay, we'll be back.
Thank you. Yep.
We're grateful to our sponsors and partners who support men's health education, emotional resilience, and peer connection. Their investment helps the Reluctant Brotherhood ensure that no man and his family face prostate cancer alone. To support the movement, visit thereluctantbrotherhood.org. Subscribe and join us every 2 weeks.
Welcome back to Beyond Prostate Cancer. I'm Casey, and for those just joining us, I'm here with Jann, a survivor, a pharmacologist, and someone using his experience to help others. Jann, thanks for rejoining us. And like I said, I'd like to talk a little bit more about your journey and some additional things. So let me ask you a question, Jann. A lot of men are hesitant to share their story or even have these kind of conversations. So we touched on it a little bit more, but what made it important for you to come here today? Other than we know that you appreciate the effort, right? But how easy was it for you to agree to do the interview with us today?
It was real easy because I'm a big believer in communication and knowledge. And so I think the more people that know about prostate cancer, the more people that know about the individual experiences, the pluses and minuses, the ups and downs, the better off that everybody's going to be. So I'm very a big advocate of communication, which this is obviously an important part of.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, definitely. Looking back, do you think men are underinformed or underprepared or just not asking the right questions in terms of their prostate cancer journey once they find out they've been, once they've been diagnosed?
Yes, I've run into that quite a bit. I belong to 2 cancer support groups that meet weekly, and I deal with dozens of men every week. And I find that some are very well informed, others are not so much.
Right.
I have tried to act throughout my time in these cancer support groups as a resource. Because of my pharmacology background, I've been able to help a lot of men one-on-one and even in group settings understand the drugs that they may be taking. In prostate cancer, there's a lot of people on drugs, and they don't always understand what they are, what the pluses and minuses are of those drugs. So I've been happy that I've been able to help some people with their drug knowledge and feel more comfortable about what they're taking, what their options are, the questions that they should be asking their healthcare professionals from a pharmacology standpoint. That's one of the big things I try to do in my 2 cancer support groups.
Right. You actually just answered my next question, which was going to be, a lot of men take medications after surgery without fully understanding them, right? So I'll give you a quick example. So I told you I know a gentleman who just had his prostatectomy a few weeks ago. He's not having any incontinence, but he asked me, he says, hey, they gave me some Cialis. And he says, do you think I should take it? And I said, first off, I'm not a doctor, so I would recommend that you do what your doctor says. He says, well, what is it for? And so I was a little surprised to hear him say, to ask me that question, because I'm sure the doctor told him what it was for. But you being a pharmacologist, maybe this is a moment where we can kind of explain to the audience what the purpose of Cialis is, what it's not, and how it can benefit the prostate cancer survivor.
Absolutely. No, I've taken Cialis, and I know well about it, and it's there are other drugs in that class too to be considered. But Cialis is a drug that improves the blood flow to your body, and especially to your prostate region. And with that improved blood flow, there is a possibility, not a certainty, but a possibility that will help with erections. And so Cialis is probably the most widely used drug in the prostate cancer field. And so I encourage people to think about it, to study it. If they're having problems, as I have, with erectile dysfunction, and as I say, I'm taking Cialis, so I'm a knowledgeable advocate. It's not right for everybody. There are side effects, so you do need to think about it and talk to your healthcare professionals. But it's certainly something with erectile dysfunction to consider.
Yeah. Thank you. Because we know, or at least my understanding of it is just that, right? It helps to increase circulation. Now, I remember my doctor told me, my surgeon, he said, generally, if you didn't have erection issues prior to surgery, you likely won't have after surgery, as long as they spare the nerves. But they still put you on the Cialis, usually about 5 milligrams, from what I understand. That's what I was given, 5 milligrams. Can you explain the difference, in general terms, between Cialis and Viagra? Because a lot of people confuse the two.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities, more similarities than differences. But by a small margin, it's been found that Cialis tends to have less side effects than Viagra. So that's the big reason that Cialis is more commonly prescribed with prostate cancer people. And 5 milligrams is quite often a good starting dose. But if you tolerate that well and don't think you have any side effects to that dose, I encourage people, and if you're still having erectile dysfunction, I encourage people to think about going up to 10 or even 20 milligrams per day, which is a dose that I'm taking and has been taken by many people successfully. But you need to pay attention to side effects that you're having along the way.
Wow, yeah, you're really kind of touching on some things that I was definitely going to ask you, right? What are the kind of things you should pay attention to? This gentleman told me that he's been noticing pain in the center of his back, and he believes it's a result of the Cialis. Now, I've never heard anyone else mention that, and I haven't had a chance to look to see if that's one of the side effects. But have you ever heard of that?
I have.
Okay.
It is rare. There's a lot of rare effects of drugs. And as you've mentioned before, everybody's different in terms of their reaction to surgery, radiation, drugs. So we have to be very cognizant of differences that people have. But if people feel like a drug is causing them side effects that they're unhappy with, then they have to consult with their physician or their healthcare professional and consider either stopping or decreasing the dose of the drug.
Okay. Yeah. I tell people, and I try to encourage people to talk to their doctors more. When they hear that I've gone down, when I've had prostate cancer, they come to me with a lot of questions, but I always encourage them and remind them, number one, I'm not a physician. Number two, that's what your physician is there for, to reach out to them. And even I also recommend call your pharmacy. Right. A lot of times the pharmacist is very willing to discuss medications with you if you don't understand, if you're not familiar with how to search things online, or if you're the type to catastrophize when you get online. and see things that scare you. Talk to your pharmacist.
Yeah.
I appreciate
Well,
that.
maybe I'm getting out of line here, but if you want to encourage people to contact you and your Beyond Prostate Cancer effort, you can pass on questions that people may have to me if you want to serve as an intermediary there. I'm happy to do that. But it's obviously up to you guys what you want to do in those regards.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, well, one thing for sure is when we get closer to closing the show, what we try to do is we try to direct people to a support group, but certainly we believe in the Reluctant Brotherhood. So, and I also try to bring people to the Reluctant Brotherhood because I believe in it. So you'll probably see a few new faces soon, and they'll tell you that I definitely mentioned your name. So yeah, we'll definitely do that because we believe that you're a great resource for the Reluctant Brotherhood, Jen. I appreciate that.
Thank you. You're welcome.
So just a few more things. What do you think is missing in traditional care that spaces like the Reluctant Brotherhood provide?
One of the main things that I've seen missing is a discussion of and treatment plans for mental challenges that come with prostate cancer, be they anxiety or depression or other sorts of mental challenges that people have. That's not talked about enough. That's not considered enough. That's outside the realm of expertise that typical healthcare professionals treating prostate cancer people might have, the urologist, the radiation specialist, and the like. I find more and more men that I interact with could use a good discussion with a therapist or a psychiatrist, because there's an awful lot of people out there with mental challenges related to their prostate cancer.
That's the gap right there. Too many times I hear this, that the surgeon will explain the surgery, the radiation oncologist will explain the radiation therapy, but unless you ask for it and are very aggressive about it, there is no mental health professional on the team, at least not so far as I've seen. So yeah, the mental piece is likely the bigger piece, right? Because once, I'll tell you something, my first week with the catheter, I thought I was going to lose my mind.
Right.
And that's just 1 week.
Right.
But I didn't have a good experience my catheter week. Thankful that it was only 1 week, but I remember that my catheter got jostled loose and I freaked out because it was an experience that I wasn't prepared for. I didn't know it was that could happen, and I ended up having to go back. And so it was very unsettling, and then you're thinking, what like what's going on here? Right. So yeah, there's definitely a mental piece to it. And I encourage men as well to not only get support, but yeah, don't be ashamed to seek therapy. Right. There's nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong at all.
Nothing at all. You're absolutely right.
Jann, one last question. So if a man walks out of the doctor's office tomorrow with a diagnosis, what do you think the first few things that he should do are?
Wow. I think get a second opinion. Get a second opinion maybe from a different practice, a different specialty. For instance, if your first diagnosis comes from a urologist, consider a medical oncologist specialist to give you a little different perspective on things. Have them look over your records to see what they think. So the biggest thing I think the person needs to do at the outset is to get a second, maybe even a third opinion about what the diagnosis is based on, what the alternatives might be, and the pros and cons of different situations. So that would be my number one thing to tell people: get second and third opinions.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that. And that's for anything, not just prostate cancer, right?
Right.
When you're talking about a serious life-changing diagnosis, it's always better to get, people say get second opinions. I get third opinions.
Yeah.
I've gotten fourth opinions, but sometimes you can run into getting so many opinions, you confuse yourself, right? So at some point you have to kind of rein yourself in.
Yes,
and that's
exactly.
where the support group comes in, because there are people in these support groups that have the experience.
Exactly.
Such as yourself.
Yeah. And, and you can get bad advice too. For example, my urologist, who I love and trust in a lot of ways, steered me the wrong way when I asked him about support groups. You know, this is 5-6 years ago. I asked him about support groups, and he said, you really don't need to go that route. They're just a bunch of whiners. And so I didn't connect up with support groups for a long time, because I thought that that's what was the case. And when I finally did find the support groups, as I say, I'm actively weekly involved with 2 of them. And when I did find them, I found that there's not that at all. There's a lot of support. There's a lot of knowledge. There's a lot of value that hopefully I can bring, as well as the knowledge and wisdom that I can gain from those who have been down this path a long time before I have, and have different experiences. So don't be put off by support groups. There's certainly my experience there. They don't have to be a bunch of whiners, that's for sure.
Wow, that's a little disturbing to hear a medical professional say that. But, you know, at the same time, sometimes that medical professional has not dealt with the prostate cancer, right? So they don't truly understand. They may understand the terms, right? The procedures, but they don't truly know unless they're in those shoes. Wow, that's deep, Jann. That's deep. Yeah, I tell you, the support groups have been just invaluable to me. I'm in several. I'm in a veterans group, and I'm obviously with the Reluctant Brotherhood, and I would have it no other way.
Yeah, me too.
Jann, thank you so much for your honesty and for your insight. I tell you, you're using your experience to help so many people. Hopefully you'll come back and join us again. If you need support, we're here, the Reluctant Brotherhood. You can find us at www.reluctantbrotherhood.org. And remember, we hold each other up. This is Beyond Prostate Cancer. I'm Casey. See you next time.
If today's conversation resonated with you, share it with another man who needs it. For support groups, resources, and brotherhood, visit thereluctantbrotherhood.org. Beyond Prostate Cancer is produced by the Reluctant Brotherhood with support from the Leon Thomas Group and LTG Studio. Subscribe and join us every 2 weeks. This program is for educational and informational purposes only and is not medical advice. Always consult a qualified healthcare professional regarding treatment decisions. The views expressed are those of the host and guests and do not necessarily reflect affiliated organizations.